Thank you for joining us. You are watching KUHS The Stream on Melody Drive. You are watching the Weekend Boost. And I am the host, Paul Lane. If you've just joining us for the first time, what we do on our show is we usually feature artists, people of note, people of interest, and people in community. I just want to let you know, if you are interested in coming onto the show, if you have a story, you don't have to be an author, but if you have a story that you would like to share, I'd love to feature you on our show. If you'd like to sponsor the show, I'm looking for sponsors, and we'd love to have you as our sponsor. We're getting a pretty good audience, and the audience is growing every week, so please reach out to us here at the station, and we would love to have you on the show. Now, just a little bit. I got a little feedback, I think, here. You see here. Oh, just a little difference between pretty good and very good. So, I really enjoy having people of interest on the show. You know that I am a big supporter of the Colorado Alliance for Latino Mentors and Authors, CALMA, and we feature the CALMA authors every chance we get. I've had a lot of different authors come on the show in the last 4 years that we've been doing the show. I've had the opportunity to read about between 18 and 20 books a year, which is pretty good. Did you know that if you read 2 books a year, you read more books than 98% of the world population? Did you also know that a person who will not read is no better than a person who cannot read? I challenge you, pick up a book, challenge yourself, read a book that changes your life, read a book that makes you happy, read a book that makes you cry, read a book about history, read a book about romance, read a book about fiction, read a book about fantasy, read a book, change your life forever. You want to go to the past, you want to travel in a time machine, read a book. You want to talk to someone from 1725, read a book. It's all out there. But again, if you know someone who you would love to see featured on the show, if you'd like a topic that's covered on the show, reach out to us on the station, or you can reach me on my website at info@paullane.net, and I would be very happy to feature you or your topic on the show. Guys, today we have a guest, my friend Barb Crawley, who actually went down to make sure her car is locked, so she'll be right up. But we're going to be talking about some very interesting guests that we've both had on our shows. Barb actually has a radio show. She's been a guest on the show. This is her 3rd visit. And Barb and Dee and me, we love to get together for dinner. We love to get together and just visit. And it's a wonderful thing that we like to do, and it's nice to have new friends. And one of the things I love about hosting the show is that I have had that opportunity to meet a lot of new people, make a lot of new friends, read a lot of fantastic books, and find out a lot about everything from metaphysics to history to past lives to so many other things. Just a couple of minutes, and she will be right back up, and we'll be talking about Barb, talking about some of Barb's guests. Barb has been hosting her radio show for 3 years now. Forgive me, the name of the show slips my mind, but Barb has been hosting her talk show very, for over 3 years too. So she's actually up there in the veteran status when it comes to radio hosting. So I'm going to just go ahead and last show that I was on, I brought a bunch of my metaphysical or new age or highly technical equipment that I use in treating people and helping people to feel better, look better, or have a better sense of well-being. And today I'm going to just highlight some of my, again, past guests, some books that I have that are really informational, a lot of books that are very helpful and useful. And with that, we're going to go ahead and get started. A couple of guests that are going to be coming onto the show again that have been past guests. Really enjoy Victor Archuleta. He wrote this book, Power of Energy Healing. This is his latest book. Victor is an author. He's a healer. He's down in Santa Fe, New Mexico. In the Santa Fe area, actually, Española area. But hopefully I'll be seeing Victor in a couple of weeks here. We're going to go to New Mexico, but we'll be having him as a guest on the show again. So keep your eye out for that. Victor's he just has such really good information. Another guest that's been on the show before, will be coming hopefully live in the studio this time, is Irene Irene Blea. She wrote this book, Irene with Wolf Medicine, a really, really exciting book about her life. It chronicles her story, and it's got some really, really useful tidbits in there. Irene is like a magical woman, a medicine woman, a woman with so many insights and so much wisdom and so much information. And I tell you, join us. Actually, she is traveling right now and has been in the Denver area actually doing some speaking about this book. This is one of her latest books. She also has a new poetry book that she's going to be featuring, and we're going to be talking about that poetry book when she comes onto the show. So, you know, keep an eye out for that. She'll be on. I don't have my calendar handy, but she'll be coming onto the show very, very soon. I mentioned that Barb Crowley is our guest today, and she is just in from locking her car. Hi, Barb. So good to see you. I didn't get a hug this morning when I saw you.
I need my hug. What a weird thing.
Yeah.
They're so quiet, these cars. You know?
I know. Half the time you can't tell if it's running.
I know. Well, I went to lock it and it said still running.
Oh my goodness.
My God.
That was more than a security issue.
Yeah, a little bit. I want to own that car and keep that car.
Yeah. So
I know.
I was just talking about a couple of past guests that have been on the show that are coming back onto the show.
Oh, that's great.
Barb, you've been on the show 3 times. This is your third
Yeah,
visit,
my third.
And we've
I
had
get
dinner together.
soon.
Yeah, you absolutely. We'd have to save a seat for you here.
Yeah, I know. I get my name on the back.
There you go.
Yep. So, yeah, it's been great. We've had great conversations on
Yes.
and off.
Yes.
Mostly off are great
Yeah.
conversations. And we decided to bring one of those great conversations on.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
One of the things is we are both hosts.
Yes.
I think we're so lucky because we get to interview people from all over the world.
You bet.
All kinds of people, all kinds of experiences.
Mm-hmm.
And I specialize in metaphysics. My show is Metaphysics, A View Through the Veil.
Mm-hmm.
So I get all metaphysic people, and it's fascinating.
It really is.
Yeah.
I remember the day we met. It was almost like it was destiny. I mean,
Right.
We were in For Heaven's Sake in the metaphysical store, and Dee, my wife, and I were walking, and I saw you, and I said, "Are you Barb?" And you go, "Yeah, I am." And then I said, "Are you a psychic?" And you go, "Yeah, I am."
Right.
So you resemble a lady a woman that I used to go to that was a psychic, and so it was just like, we just felt like I felt like we meshed. I mean,
Right,
it's like,
right. We certainly were comfortable immediately.
Yes.
Immediately. Yeah.
yes. And
Which
so
was great.
you've had gifts pretty much all your life.
I have. I shut them down. You know, come teenage, everybody wants to conform. And how do I know these things? And are you cheating at all the games? You know. So I shut them down, and then I only got what I call psychic kids. And psychic kids are, we all get them, I think, but mine were more specific. So when you get that run, that's a psychic kid. You take that. Where there is nothing around you that tells you this, but you know in your gut, this is not good, or this is dangerous, whatever. That's a psychic kid.
Yes.
Now, I would get psychic kids, but I'd get the whole picture. Somebody's hiding here. If you go over there, you are going to threaten them, and they will attack.
Wow.
So I'd get the whole thing, but they were still psychic kids. I wasn't in control, really. And then finally, I went to Reiki, and I got so much information, and I didn't know what to do with it, so I quit doing that. Then I finally went and got trained. So now I can clue in the way, when I want, and the way I want. I still get psychic kicks. I still get that, this isn't good here, or go here. But mostly I just tune in. I just will sit down and go into a space and look, and look.
So you mentioned you went and got training.
I did.
Do you believe everyone or most people have psychic abilities?
I do, unless
know.
they've deliberately come into this life and said, I do not want to use them here. And that's very few people. I have met some people that's the case. And but almost all of us have it. And it's a matter of paying attention. We discount it more than anything.
Oh.
And spirit likes to be honored.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're discounting it, it stops talking to you. So, you want to acknowledge when it happens,
Mm-hmm.
when you get a hit,
Mm.
or a sign or a message. You want to honor that. You want to thank, the universe for
The
that.
energy, the
Yeah,
universe, yes,
yeah.
yes.
So, and that's very important, and then you'll get more communication. I mean, the more, it's like everybody else, the more you ignore them, the more they quit
They
talking.
go away, yeah. Wow,
Right.
that makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
There's so many times when I feel these I don't know if you want to call them psychic nudges, or especially now that I meditate more,
Mm-hmm.
I'm starting to feel more and more like there's an energy that's almost reaching out to me. And,
Right.
And I'm talking to you this morning, I'm kind of thinking, wow, maybe I better really be more attuned to that. Maybe I better start
Pay
listening more.
attention.
Yeah.
Pay attention, and again, acknowledge it.
Acknowledge, yes.
Thanks for that info. Thanks for that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Spirit guide, thank you.
Yeah, exactly. And then when you see in fact, I had somebody on yesterday. It hasn't been broadcast yet. This guy, his name's Dr. Jonathan Ellerby, and he's actually in France right now. He's English, and he's a doctorate in religious studies, as well as probably a bunch of other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And he talks about how when you get that moment of awe, where, let's say we were talking about, you're waiting for someone to pick you up, and it's snowing, and all of a sudden you look at it and think, oh my God, this is beautiful. That's a moment of awe.
Wow.
That's spirituality. And we talked about now, he said he doesn't look at mystics anymore. He follows the science. On the fringe of science, but they're not crazy scientists. But science is starting to really support everything the mystic talked about. And where they've come out and talked about consciousness is not what we thought. They're starting to see how expanded it truly is.
Oh man.
And then we talked about in that moment of awe, in that moment of, oh my God, this is beautiful. That moment of awe, what's going on in our brain is actually rearranging the synapses, rearranging the way our brain is working in that moment.
Wow.
So this is all science now bringing this to the table. So
wow.
It's pretty interesting. It's pretty fascinating.
That is fascinating. Yes. And now that they're starting to find ways to prove it with evidence, there's no arguing. It just is.
Well, they're still arguing.
Well, they're still arguing. There always will be arguing.
Yeah.
So many people are stuck with philosophies that discount other sciences or different philosophies, and so it's.
Well, there's a lot of fear out there. He talked too about the philosophies, people's philosophies. Well, that really is their basic belief of how life works, and if that's challenged, that is your whole belief system, your whole life is challenged. And there is fear, and then there's anger. Yeah, exactly. And then there's anger, and then there's fight. And we see a lot of that going on as we're going into a major change.
Wow.
We're seeing a lot of that horrible fear and hate and anger coming up because the basic philosophy is being challenged. And it's being challenged by real scientists, by
reputable
science, yes. So that our foundation is kind of being juggled here. Yeah.
That's very interesting. Tell me some of your very interesting guests that you've had on your show in the past year.
Oh, I have to go.
Years.
Yeah, more years. You and I talked about doing past life regression.
Oh, let's go there, man.
Yeah. And I did 2 of them with one of my guests. And the first one, I never believed, because I never saw it in all of my psychic looks, that people were animals and then people, So I never saw this. I could see the interconnectedness, but I never saw that we actually went across species.
Could transition.
In another lifetime. So my first past life regression. This poor guy, I spent an hour and a half talking about what I was seeing and the way I was looking and where I slept in an alley with others. And when I saw people, I looked up at them and I would lock into food, and my mind was very simple. Not stupid, but simple. And by the end of it, I had to admit, oh my God, I'm a dog.
Wow. Wow.
It was like, and it took me an hour and a half to admit it.
Wow.
To admit what I was seeing and what I was experiencing. And that pretty much blew my head apart. There are a few things that blew my head apart. Yeah, pretty wild. But you had one recently.
Yeah, actually, back in November, I went to Christine Morton here in Arvada. And this was actually my third experience with being hypnotized. I got to share a couple of things. The first time I was, 21 years old. It was 1980.
Wow.
I found an article in a Playboy magazine. It was in a 1980 Playboy magazine. I don't remember which month. I remember the cover. Sorry. But I used to get the Playboy magazine, and I read it, but this article was about past lives therapy. Look it up, guys. It's very interesting. But it was a self-hypnosis exercise, and I went through it. And ever since, all my life, even before that, and since then, I've always woke up every single night, 7 days a week, every day of the year, in a puddle of sweat. Right. I've always had my hair just a mess. The second time I went through a past lives regression, I didn't have any profound changes when I was done. But this last time, Barb, since I went through that, I do not have night sweats anymore. I do not have nightmares anymore. I'm not kidding you. I could wake up and my hair looks just like when I went to bed now because I'm sleeping soundly.
The benefit of, right?
Yes, yes. And I was talking to my cousin last night, and she said, what's profound about that? What is significant about that? And I said, here's what it is. I found peace where I had trauma.
Right.
recovered.
You released energy.
Yes.
You released energy, yeah.
I wanted to share
memory, too.
The memory, yes.
Yeah.
She said, I just can't buy it. I can't buy it. I can't buy it. And I said, let me ask you if this is what you mean. What you're saying is, if I went through this, I would not experience a past life. She goes, well, no, that's not it at all. I'm afraid that if I went through it, I don't know if I'd like what I'd see.
Right, right.
And so I told her, look, there's nothing wrong with not wanting to explore that in-depth part of who you are. There's nothing wrong with it at all. But yeah, it's fascinating, and it's very.
I had one person on, and this woman fascinated me. She did a lot of past life regressions with people, and she had a woman come back to her, and that she had worked with a lot. So she thought they were done. There really wasn't any more peeling the onion kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And this woman called her and said, I need to come back. And she said, well, okay, we'll do a regression. And she came back, and she said she was young and sweet and had a cute little voice and all that. And during the regression, she went into a man's voice.
Oh, yeah.
And it was very harsh. And it turned out, and he was, mean. He was just a nasty person. Mm-hmm. And during the regression, it came out that he was a slave trader. So she, in her past life, was male and a slave trader. But not only that, he traded a young woman, and he sold that young woman to a man that he knew would be horribly brutal to her, sexually, physically, in every way. And he got pleasure out of this.
Wow.
So this is the sweet little girl that she's regressing and telling about this. Well, in this time, when he's laughing about this, and he looks at when I say a young girl, I'm talking maybe 15, 16, she turns to him and looks at him, and in her eyes are pity.
Wow.
That was pity. And it stunned him, but not only that, it stayed with him for the rest of his life. Wow. The woman I was talking to has written a book. I think it's Lost Souls, Dark Souls. And you can come to my website of viewthroughtheveil.com, and I've got the information on there.
A View Through the Veil.
Yes, thank you. And she said that what happens when you go negative like that, or you become these people, you're stepping away from the light. You're stepping away from God or from the source. And as you step back, you're losing it. And you're becoming more and more into the dark, or more unaware. And part of your, and part of your soul group may sacrifice themselves to try and break through and bring you back. And that's who that young girl slave was. And those, the pity in her eyes stayed with him, who now was her, through that lifetime, and broke through. And he spent in many different ways, lifetimes making his way back.
Wow.
And I said to this woman, why did they come to you? She said she started to get all these lost souls. And I said, well, why you? And she said, because in a past life she was a child murderer.
Oh,
and a
man.
child came to her, and right before she killed him, he looked at her, and his eyes
With that look.
broke through to her. And I said, well, how long did it take you to make your way back? I mean, was it enough of a break that, like, next lifetime you're back, She said, oh, well, over 100 lifetimes.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then she talked about souls that, where a soul member of the soul group would try and break through and couldn't. And the soul would try to make it back and could not.
Wow.
And then would ask to be dismantled.
Really?
Which is, they would disappear, but it's their choice. They would disappear, that they could not make it back.
Wow.
I know.
Wow.
And that's, I mean, this stuff's freaky.
I'm telling you, the more you learn about this, the more fascinating it becomes. It becomes so.
It is.
I mean, I can't get enough of it. I mean, I read stories of children who exhibit evidence of past lives, who talk about. I love. I can't think of which book it is. It might be the Tibetan Book of the Living and Dead, or Living and Dying. And talks about
Tibetan
this.
Book of the Dead, probably.
Yes, the Tibetan Book of the Dead. Forgive me. But there's a story of this young boy who's riding in a rickshaw, basically, with his dad, and he says, "Go down this road." And his dad says, "We don't go down that road. We're here." And he says, "No, my family lives here."
Yeah,
and they come up to a house, and he says, "If you go in there, there's a bedroom, or there's a table, and the mother's name is this, and the dad's name is this," and they go in, and all of it is so.
Oh yeah, there's in the University of West Virginia. I'm pretty sure it's West Virginia. The guy who invented Xerox, when he died, he left a ton of money to the university to study parapsychology.
Really?
And they've been doing it since the 60s, 70s. And one guy studies the kids coming back remembering, and the other guy studies near-death experience. And we're talking top psychiatrists. We're not talking about like you and me, just liking it. Top psychiatrists who do experiments.
Wow.
And their books are called Before and After. I just love that. But he talked about having a kid that he kept saying he was someone else, but he was an actor. He gave the name, everything. This was not long enough ago that his family was dead. The actor in a previous life, they went to meet the man, his previous life person's sister.
Oh, man.
And when they met, and this kid's 15 years old, doesn't want to be here, 15-year-old. And he's sitting with the sister, who at this point is like over 80 years old. Oh, it might have been his daughter, sorry. But anyway, he said, the kid turned around and said, the best monograms are in Paris. And the woman was just stunned, because I guess the actor from the previous life, he monogrammed everything.
Oh man.
And he was into monograms. Well, the 15-year-old didn't know what a monogram was.
Oh my goodness. Yeah,
I know.
yeah.
And they proved it. But I have to say, a near-death experience, and I said this to the person I was interviewing, the doctor I was interviewing, there is so much evidence out there at this point. If it was anything else, this would be fact. Why is it not fact at this point?
It's not accepted.
Right. I
Yes.
mean, we have people who are for recounting conversations that, as they are dead, are going on down the hall, where they're saying to people, "I am so sorry, your so-and-so, your friend, your daughter, your mother, whatever, has passed away," and going through the whole thing. And they're recounting word for word the exact conversation.
As if they were sitting there in the midst of...
They were.
Yeah,
You know,
they were.
yeah.
Yeah.
And the evidence that they have for this, really in any other way, would be scientific fact at this point.
Yes.
You know, but...
You know, there's a book I have, it's called Final Gifts. And it was written by a hospice nurse, and there's a story in there of someone who had an NDE, a near-death experience.
Right.
And they elevated above the room, and they were looking down, and they saw something on top of a locker.
Right.
And then they moved out of the building, and they went outside of the building and started, ascending, and said, "There's a pair of shoes on the second-story window."
Yeah, yeah.
And everyone's like, "What? What the relevance of this?" And so this person got better, came out, went to the second story, looked out the window. There's a pair of shoes.
Yeah, yeah. Now this would be scientific evidence
Yes.
in any other field.
Yes.
But science is
discounted.
having so much trouble accepting it. It just doesn't want to accept it.
Yeah.
Yeah. That life goes on, that it does not end.
There's a fear of, they call it necromancy, and it's talking to the dead, reaching out to the dead, and there's some schools of thought that say that it's very, very bad, but the truth of the matter is it's very, very evident, and it's very undeniable. These experiences people are having are from different faiths, from different backgrounds, from different parts of the world. It's not centralized. It's not just one group of people. It's all kinds of people, young, old, male, female. I mean, the other thing I love is that when so many people go back, they are different genders, or they are an animal, and it's so amazing.
I was stunned at the animal thing, but different genders is not unusual. And sometimes they're horrible people, and sometimes they're great people. The truth is you can't have, you can't always be good.
Yes, yes.
Because if you didn't have the bad, you wouldn't know what the good was.
The yin and the yang, yeah.
It's you've got to experience everything.
Wow.
For the experiences of being a human, being on Earth, being on Earth.
Yeah.
But it is amazing, and the guy who wrote before with the kids, he only put in his book the ones that he could go document. He never put in hearsay, they investigated, but they had to go document. One of the kids that came back went down in World War II, and his plane, he described his plane, he described when it went down, where it went down, everything about it. And they actually located the plane, and when they pulled it out of the border, that kid was there to watch it.
He saw
yes,
his... I think I'm familiar with the story. He was when he said, "Yeah, those planes have blowouts on takeoffs," and the dad said, "What?" He was on this aircraft carrier, and he named the aircraft carrier. He named some of his fellow compatriots who were on the ship with him. I mean...
It's amazing. It really is amazing, And most kids actually will have memories up until about 4 or 5, and then the veil gets pulled. And not only do they not remember memories, but there are a lot of parts about their early life kids don't remember.
Right.
That veil just gets pulled, and that information's gone. But what I find odd, too, is even though they have memories of the other side, they almost know not to tell anybody.
Isn't that interesting?
I think that is.
I don't know if they think they won't be believed, or if they kind of even question their own
they're
psychic
not
ability.
They're absolutely sure, but somehow they know don't tell, or don't, you can maybe mention it, but don't really bring it out there or something.
Yeah.
It's odd. But, they will lose it after about 4 or 5, they'll lose it. So listen to your kids.
My brother Joey used to say when we were kids, "Remember when I was your dad?" And we discounted it. And now I look back and I think, "Oh my gosh, Joey was our dad."
Right.
My baby brother,
Yeah.
You know, for me, when I went on my most recent past life experience, I had a very traumatic death. I mean, I was beheaded, and
Wow.
I witnessed my mother's murder, and I avenged her murder very violently, and I saw that, and I you know, my regression therapist asked, Spirit Guide, why did you take Paul to this life? And it was very, very profound what she said. She said, Paul has always wrestled with rage, and he doesn't understand why. He's identified it, he knows he has it, but he's never been able to understand where that rage came from. And coming to that realization for me was so liberating, Barb. I can't even explain how
The
freeing
release.
the
It's almost like a
release.
PTSD
Yes,
that you're
yes.
letting go of. Yeah.
And it was like, I don't have to harbor that anger anymore. Now I understand where it came from. I can set it aside. I
Right.
can move on with
Right.
my life in a productive manner.
I had a woman, because I do readings, and often when I'm reading somebody, I will go back, I'll identify what's going on with them in their life, what this life is about. But often I'll go back through their life and see, is this from this life, or did you bring this in with you?
Oh, man.
You know, and then if it's you've brought it in with you, we can often get rid of it, break that energy. But I had one woman come to me and said, I have this issue with fire. She said, I can be in a huge crowd, and if somebody lights a match on the other side of this huge room, I'm aware.
Wow.
Always fire is, you know. We went back into her past lives, and we went through 2 lives where she actually died in fire. One actually was a suicide. The other one was her outfit got caught in past lives, and, you know. So we went through it all.
Wow.
She called me up about 6 months later and said, it's all gone.
Man.
The minute we went through that, after that, said anybody can light anything anywhere, and I don't even notice.
Yeah.
It's gone. It's somehow that memory got stuck through coming through different lives, and sometimes it just gets stuck. Sometimes there's you have to address it, and that's why it comes through.
Yeah.
Where it just gets stuck, we can, in between lives, I can actually take the person. The minute you die, you turn and you look at your life.
Yes.
And when you look at your life, if you misjudge it, that kind of gets stuck, you know, or something gets stuck. We can turn and unstick it, and then it's gone. Then it's done.
Wow.
You know, some of the stuff you bring in because you're supposed to do something with it. You know, you need to address it. When I say address it, it's not clean it up or whatever. You need to experience it more. You need to have it more real, where you try to deny it or push it away, whatever. You need to experience it. Once you can fully accept it, you usually can let it go. Often in just talking about it, that's the acceptance, that's the letting go.
Fantastic, man.
It's
That's so
amazing.
interesting.
It's
Yeah, it
really
really is.
amazing.
There's so many parts about that just kind of make you scratch your head and say, wow.
Right. And so much of it is coming up now.
Oh,
People
man.
are, the consciousness is being expanded now.
Yes.
As we talked about with scientists now, they're starting to realize, prove that our consciousness is not just here, that it goes through many universes, many places, that we are connected, you know, to the other side of the world, or, you know, wherever.
Other timelines, yes.
Yeah, well, that's the other thing, time.
Yeah.
They're starting to realize that time is. I had somebody on recently that talked about coma, people in coma.
Oh, yes.
And how some people will have during their coma, and he worked with induced comas. So I don't know about natural comas, but induced comas, where people will wake up, they'll have whole lives in their coma. They'll have wives, kids, you know, jobs. They go through everyday life. And then they wake up, and that life is gone, and then this life is here, and they don't really know who these people are.
Whoa,
but
man.
the grief of having lost the people their whole life, it's devastating to them.
It's as though a simultaneous life were being lived, and
Exactly,
it was
yeah.
it had to be
And
killed
I
off
said
or-
too, what about parallel lives? And he said, I can't answer to it. I don't know.
Yeah.
But what goes on in induced comas, some people are just don't remember a thing. But a lot of people, consciousness, the guardrails have come off. And they're going between different consciousnesses.
Wow.
And they come up, and one woman talked about, you know, what the doctors had been talking about when they were in the room.
Wow.
And one had told another one, well, something very close to him about, you know, getting engaged, and he was afraid to do it. And, all that stuff. And it was, telling the confidant a secret, you know. Well, when she came to, she said to him, "Did you get engaged? What did you do?" And repeated the whole thing, as well as what they thought the prognosis was. And this doctor, who was the one that did get engaged and did get married, he actually, by the time she woke up, he was married. And he said that, he could never accept it. He, for the whole time he talked to her, he kept saying, "I can't believe the other doctor told you. I can't believe." And the other doctor, she kept saying, never told. And then what happened is she just goes quiet. You know, she's just, I mean, you can't have it. You can't accept it.
You can't explain it, you can't accept it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And so many people with logical minds have a very difficult time understanding these abstract, I guess, concepts.
Right. We can't see it and can't be there.
Yeah.
It can't be there,
Yeah.
especially when it is against our philosophy of time. Time, goes past, present, future, and that's all it is.
Yeah, yeah, it's yeah.
One life.
Chris Liagino, one of my past guests, is he talks about talking to people in a coma, and he can actually get them to prompt lights flickering and radios.
Really?
Yeah, he says it's very very real.
Right.
And he's told stories about his friends that have had a coma, and police officers were there, and he would, this person in the coma would go and start playing with their radios, and everyone would get shut out on the radio, and he would do all these oddball things, and it was like
it's amazing.
Yeah. Consciousness. There's, Eckhart Tolle talks about this great awakening that's taken place, and every day I'm seeing more evidence on a grander scale than the day before. And there's, it's like a truck that can't be stopped. It's like a train that's just, it's coming.
Yeah.
And
and it doesn't matter whether you're going to get on board or not, because it's here. It's going to happen with or without you.
Yeah.
But I think this is a lot of what the upset in the world's about.
I so that makes so much sense, because you go through a conflict before you really come to the realization, this is where I am, or this is what's going on, and man, that makes perfect sense,
I know.
Especially within that internal struggle, because we have these voices and said, oh, don't, you can't have psychic abilities, that's not good, or understanding
or that's schizophrenia.
Yeah. Or what do you mean? I think I might have been a woman, or I might have been a man, or how can this be?
Yeah.
And so we question our own.
And our religion tells us this is not.
It has so much bearing on how or whether or not we understand, believe, or accept these things.
Right.
And so it can
and
be.
sometimes it's if you're part of a religious organization and your community is this religion, well, for you to say anything against that, you're losing your whole community.
Oh man.
This requires a lot of courage, and even beyond courage, because it's you're losing everybody.
Yep.
To say this, I mean, it's easier just being quiet.
Oh my gosh, Barbara, that's so. I remember when I went through my second past lives regression therapy session, I came, and I have a brother-in-law, he's passed away since then, and I told him about my experience, and he never spoke to me again.
Oh yeah.
And he thought I was of a bad realm, and, and my intentions were pure. My understanding was very limited, and yet it was undeniable what I experienced, what I witnessed, what I felt.
Yeah.
And so spirituality or religion can have a huge bearing on whether or not we're.
I have a friend who's used to live in this area, but he's a nurse and a psychic, right? So he used to have birthday parties, but he'd have two separate birthday parties. One for all of his hospital people, and then one for all of his psychic people. Well, a friend said to him, hey, I'll just arrange it. He was real busy or whatever. I'll arrange it. Well, he got them mixed up. So his hospital people ended up with his psychic people, Well, there were a lot of people from his hospital that never talked to him again. Just
really?
Never talked to him again.
Wow. Yeah.
One thing is that, and some psychics do this, I'm not in agreement with this, that people feel as if you're psychic, you can see all my secrets.
Mm-hmm.
I feel naked and vulnerable with you, and I don't want to be with you. And the thing is, like with me, first of all, what do you think you're that interesting?
Yeah.
And then,
yeah.
And then the other thing is, unless I look, I'm not gonna know.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually, and a lot of psychics do it separately, and unless we look, we're not gonna go into that area.
Mm-hmm.
And then the rest of us were just bumbling idiots, normal human, leaving the car on, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. So unless we look. And the other thing I've always believed, and in my practice it always looks like this, unless Spirit wants you to know, it's not going to show it to me.
Exactly.
It's not, you're not wide open like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's not going to show it to me.
Right. I love that Spirit is very wise, and
Yeah.
understanding that we have a spirit guide or guides that are literally with us, watching over us, is it's a hard thing to accept if you've never been exposed to that kind of mentality, and it's like when I finally, I went for my last past lives regression therapy session. I had a list of questions, and one of them was I wanted to know who my spirit guide was or guides,
Right.
and it was so cool to hear the audio recording of myself and hear this spirit guide speaking through me, talking to me, and telling me, I'm there in the morning when you wake up.
Yeah.
I'm the guy that nudges you. When you feel someone sitting down by you in bed, that was me. And
Right,
you're like,
right.
oh, thank
I'm
you.
the one you saw in your sleep.
Oh, you? Yes.
Yeah, I'm the one that you saw in your sleep, or when you traveled in your sleep.
Oh man,
Yeah.
that was the other cool thing, traveling in your sleep.
Yeah.
Again, Chris Liagino talks about going to places when you're in your dream state, and I believe that before my last session, I was going to that past life and I was reliving it.
Right.
That's
Because
how
you
I
know
can
why?
explain it.
Because it wasn't done.
It wasn't
Your spirit
finished.
wants this done
Yes.
and wants you to move on.
Yes.
So you kept going back to it. Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
we know that trauma stays with you 7 generations in this life. So you are experiencing generational trauma from 7 generations
Right,
ago.
right. And I've looked up the ancestral line,
Mhm.
where, when I'm working with people, it's like, this is ancestral, let's go up the line.
Yes.
And then it's usually and it can be, I've seen it, up to 5 generations where something happened here and then all the way down.
Yes.
But we have to go back and heal that original.
Yes, we do.
We can't change the history,
Mhm.
but it will not continue. And the person in front of me releases it.
Exactly.
So,
And the
yeah.
same is so with past lives. Okay, we're going to change the subject now. We're going to talk
Okay.
about something that's kind of, I don't know if you want to call it taboo. I would never discuss this before, but I'm going to talk about it. I'm going to talk about mushrooms. I'm going to talk about, call it psychedelics, call it therapeutic drugs, call it whatever you want. But I can tell you that for me, and I can only speak for me, I have been able to address, overcome, and accept so many of my traumas from this life and others
Right.
through
right.
mushrooms, and
Yeah.
I swear by
The
that.
release.
Yes.
The release.
The feeling is just, we don't highly dose, we don't take large doses, but it's so refreshing to come out of an experience where you say, wow.
It's almost like you got washed.
Yeah. You come out and you're like, wow, man. I'm getting right out now.
Yeah. And I did, as you know, I did the hero's dose, which
Yes.
is 5 grams
Oh
of
my
mushrooms.
gosh.
I had a sitter with me, and we actually did a radio show on it.
During
where
that
the
time.
sitter came on
If
and
somebody wants
talked
to see
about
that
all
show.
of it. Yes, yes. Come on the website. It's the what is the name of it? Probably the Hero's Journey.
Oh man, we're definitely going to have to go back and see
her
that.
first name is Tara. But anyway, you can always email me.
Mm-hmm.
And again, A View Through the Veil at gmail.com, and I'll send you the link to it. But
Yes.
so the Hero's Dose, 5 grams, is a lot.
That's a lot.
You are really, going out of the recreation part, and you're going into some real deep work.
Yes.
And
yes.
I would always recommend having a sitter. But, I've never tried it without. I just wouldn't.
Mm-hmm.
Some people do.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, it is unbelievable. You go into the universe. You go so deep into the universe and the grids and the graphics. And I have to tell you, most of it I don't remember.
Mm-hmm.
I was saying at the time, oh my God, this is amazing. Things like that. And I only remember spots of it. But again, the release afterwards, and my sitter, it was 24 hours. So we did a lot of work, a lot of shaman work, before we took the mushrooms.
Mm-hmm.
And then we took the mushrooms in a ceremony type setting.
Mm-hmm.
And then did the trip. And she was with me the whole time, and if I felt like I was starting to unground too far or whatever, she'd massage my feet and ground me back down.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was one of the most profound experiences I've ever had.
Yes,
and things did change. I didn't wake up the next morning a different person.
Mm-hmm.
And in 3 months, I thought nothing changed. But in 6 and 8 months, it was like, oh my God!
Wow!
Things change. Yeah.
That's the other beautiful thing about mushrooms is even with a microdose, you feel changes for days and weeks to come.
Mm-hmm.
And they may be subtle. They may be so subtle you may not even realize that they're happening until one day, that wow moment, that profound. Wow.
Yeah, and then you look back when it's that subtle.
Mm-hmm.
You have to look back, and then you can see oh my God, things did change, or
Yes.
I'm more comfortable here. Or, I haven't said that in a long time.
Yeah.
Things like that. But they are amazing. And they do the same with psychedelics. There are a lot of sitters who use psychedelics as well for the same benefit.
Yeah.
And psychedelics, honestly, in the 1950s when they were legal,
Yes.
they
Timothy Leary.
they believed it to be the best thing that ever hit mental health.
I totally believe it to this day.
Right.
When I first, I had Corina Cariñosa on the show, and she was a shaman.
Oh, no, she was on my show.
Oh, you had her, yeah. And
So
so,
you introduced me to her.
Oh, yeah.
I loved her.
I love her too. I can't find her now, but she was a shaman who prescribed me some medicine.
Yeah.
And it was Molly, LSD, and mushroom.
Yeah.
And I got to tell you, I was forthright with her. I told her, look, I have some things in me that I want to get rid of. I want to change these things. And having that experience literally opened my eyes to a lot of my own weaknesses, my own fears, my
Your own lockups.
Yes, my own blocks that I was unaware of. And not only that, it's really blossomed my marriage, my relationship, my self-esteem.
Right.
It's like profoundly impactful in a good way.
Yeah. Oh, it's amazing. It is a release, or I say like getting washed.
Yeah, it is.
All this old stuff can go away. Yeah.
It's almost like you have this bag of crap over here, on the side of you, and you just take it and just say, we don't need this anymore.
Well,
this is weighing me down.
Yeah, you've carried it for so long, you don't even know you're carrying it, and then all of a sudden, during this, you put it down, and you realize, oh my God, I'm free. Yeah. And you never pick it up again.
Yeah.
It is a phenomenal medicine.
Mm-hmm.
It is a phenomenal medicine.
Yeah.
A lot of people will do it recreationally as well.
Mm-hmm.
But recreationally or as medicine, it's best to have intention going in.
Yeah, absolutely. That was the one thing
best.
that I always encourage, when we have people over to the house and we do mushrooms. We don't do it every week, but we do it about once a month.
Mm-hmm.
we always start out with an intention, and we always start out with breathing exercises, as releasing a lot of the anger, the bitterness, the jealousy, the
So you can
regret,
relax
all of those
into
things
it.
before
Yeah.
we start. You know, now I'm equipped with a lot more sound bath tools and audio frequency.
And you're getting into vibrational tools,
very much,
right?
very
yeah,
much, yeah.
You told me that.
And
I've never had anybody on to talk about the vibrational tools.
Man,
I'm fascinated by them.
I'm learning so much
Because the
more about
universe
it.
is vibration.
Everything. You know,
Yeah.
Tesla said in the future all medicine will be vibrational, frequency.
Yeah.
And everything that we are a bandwidth.
Mm-hmm.
If you, and I talk about if you had a radio, you know, the radio dial, and if you were able to go past where this ends just a little bit further, you would go to the bandwidth that is us.
Yeah.
And consequently, if you think about where we are right now, there's a million phone calls going right through our bodies, right through us, in and out. There's
I don't like
internet
thinking
signals.
about that.
But it's so.
I know, it's true. You know, the vibration of these things are going through us.
Absolutely.
And we're free enough to allow them to go through.
Yes, we're 98% empty, 99.99129's empty space.
Right.
So theoretically, we shouldn't even be solid.
Yeah.
I mean, the
And are we solid? You
Are
go
we
to
solid?
other,
Oh, man,
other
yeah.
consciousness. Are we solid? You know, it's only in this world. This density is only here.
this density,
Yeah.
in our limited
Yeah.
perspective, it limit us to, you know, what we comprehend, what we understand,
Right,
and what
but
we
we
believe.
deliberately did it too. We
Mhm.
deliberately said, I want to go into this dense world and experience it.
Wow.
I firmly believe that we choose to
I
come
agree.
here.
I
And
agree.
there are a billion other places we can go.
Yeah.
You know, other dimensions, other worlds, other planets, you know, that we can go, and we do go. But
Yes.
this is probably one of the most dense.
Yeah, I've heard it's one of the most difficult
Yeah,
planes to
I think
be
this is
to
a
be alive in.
PhD.
Yeah, this is like, man, you're gonna
Yeah.
go for some hardcore, because we have emotions and we have you know,
Emotions is what it's about.
Yeah.
Because because I'm a medium as well, so I can see the other side. And when you go over, the first thing that happens is it's a letting go of this intense emotion.
There's no ego there.
Well, actually, there is little ego, because when they show up, I can't go by the way they look, you know, because an 85-year-old guy is never coming back looking for like an 85-year-old guy.
Wow,
And
wow.
they will pick what they like their best look to be to show me.
Yes.
And it doesn't always mean that it's from this lifetime. Sometimes it's from a different lifetime. So there's some ego there. You know?
That makes sense, yeah.
It's kind of weird.
I guess when I say no ego, there's no defense of your position at all. You know, I mean,
Oh, no.
in other words, when you go to the other side and you meet someone and you say, what you did to me on the other side, it was really impactful, but you're not hurt by it anymore. You're just almost as a matter of
That
fact.
emotion drops.
Yes.
It's like a light joy or a light bliss over there. And they recognize emotion because they were here. They can recognize, so people say, well, do they know I'm going through a hard time? They do know, but the emotion isn't there.
Wow.
And they can see the bigger picture. So they know what this is about, but they're not going to stop it. They're
Wow.
not going to really, they'll be with you. You know, and you'll perceive them many times. You'll perceive somebody, you know, you almost feel like there's nobody here, but it felt like somebody just rubbed your back or held your hand. Or,
Oh, man, I feel that
I mean,
all
they're
the time.
they're there for you. But you know, my belief is before you come here, you lay out what you want to experience, and this is your choice. And all
Yes.
your guides and God, or whatever you want to call them, will not step in front of any choice you make.
They
That's where
conspire to
total
make it
is.
happen for you, for your
Well,
reality.
not only conspire, it's almost like sitting with the guides and saying, here's the plan, you know. And you put that plan into motion. They might say to you, that's the dumbest one we ever heard. But if you proceed, they're all in.
Oh man, that's too funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, I tell you what, it is really interesting. You know, I mean, when I first met my spirit guide, he was so, and mine happened to show up as a male. I understand they can come as a female,
They'll
male.
come whichever
They're
way
not
you
gender
want.
specific. Yeah, what you perceive.
Exactly.
And I remember laying there and feeling this awe, this wisdom all around me, not as a
Mhm.
not as like an entity, not like a person, but like a just like a feeling of, I don't know. It wasn't like it was right there. It was like it was right here. for
Yeah,
me.
the only way I can explain it, and I do often use this, is that whole thing, you're a drop in the ocean. Somebody
Mhm.
got that wrong. You're a drop and the ocean.
Yes.
And it's that part of the ocean, or part of the consciousness, part of it all.
Mhm.
You are part of it all, but also you're still you.
If you took a cup and took it up out of the ocean, it's the same ocean.
Right, right.
Oh, yeah.
Well, not only that, but you blend into the ocean. You are all the ocean.
You are the ocean.
all the memories of everybody who was ever here.
Mhm.
You know, that consciousness is a
The
soup.
God
It's
consciousness,
just, yeah,
yeah.
it's just part of it all. But you're also individual.
Yeah.
So it's hard to explain other than you're a drop and the ocean. You're both.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah,
That's very
you're,
profound.
You're both.
Drop and the ocean.
Yeah, yeah.
Can't wait
But
to
that
see you talk
emotion,
about this.
but that emotion, the first thing that happens when they go over the other side is that emotion drops away.
Mhm.
Every now and then I do see emotion that's held on, but when they've been attached to something.
Mhm.
And that's where you get some ghosts.
Mhm.
You know, I was reading somebody, two sisters came in and they wanted me to read their mother. And, you know, we called their mother in, and I was reading their mother, and I kept saying, "What's with the roses?" And they'd say, "All right, we don't know, no roses, whatever." And, you know, by the third or fourth time I said, "We got to talk about the roses," because it keeps coming up. Well, it finally turned out their aunt had a house that she loved roses, and her whole garden, everything was roses.
Mm.
Well, these two had to take care of all their ancestors, mother, the aunts, everybody. They had sold, you know, cleaned out and sold the aunt's house after the aunt had passed. They sold it out and sold it to somebody who pulled all the roses.
Oh, no.
Uh-huh. And she was so upset about the roses.
Yeah.
But what was worse is she was haunting the little kid there.
Oh, my
You
goodness.
know, and I had to talk to her to say, back up, back off.
Oh,
you,
man.
you can't be doing this, you know. But every now and then they'll get, you know, as they pass over, they'll get attached to something.
Mm.
But most not. Most of the time not. Most of the time it drops away.
Mhm.
And then but they'll always come back to the young kids, because the young kids can see them and they can talk to them.
Mm.
You know, so the kids under 4. So when you have lost somebody and you see your 3-year-old talking away to nothing,
Yeah, yeah.
figure, you know, they actually see something you can't see.
Yeah, I remember
Yeah.
one of my niece's son, he said, "Hey, Uncle Joey's there, or Uncle Johnny's right there, Uncle
Right,
Johnny's right there."
right.
Little tiny kid, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
And of course, everyone was all freaked out and scared of it, you know.
Yeah.
And this was, you know, back in 1991. So at that time, I was like, "Whoa, that's scary."
Yeah,
You know, and
yeah.
in essence, he was really saying, "Hey, I'm okay, I'm here."
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. And they like communicating with the kids, you know,
Oh,
because they
yeah.
can communicate.
They can perceive
Yeah,
him.
and again, it's like spirit. They like to be acknowledged. They're
Mhm.
here.
Mm.
They're here, and often they'll come back. I want to say something else to everybody out there, because this is something that people get very upset about, and I understand it. When somebody very close to you dies, and you know, you want a message from them, you want to hear from them, are they okay, all of this, and you're not hearing anything.
Mhm.
And but then other people say, "Oh, I dreamed about your husband last night," and blah blah blah.
Mm.
And all you can think is, why are you dreaming about him? Why is he not talking to me?
Mm.
And you're so hurt that, you know, that they're not coming through to you. But I have to tell you, when there's grief like that, grief is a very heavy, dense
Wow.
emotion. It's like an envelope around you. And until it dissipates, and you can't make it happen, so don't, you know, this is not your fault and you can't make it happen.
Mm.
It's hard for the spirit to get through that grief to you.
Wow.
So they will go to somebody else that, no, you know, not much grief there or whatever. I always said weird people, like your grocery store clerk. And they'll go to them and they'll be in their dream, but they know they'll tell you.
Ah,
So, you know,
they
that's-
are reaching out to you.
Yes, Yeah, so, you know, when you're
Oh, man.
coming through the grocery clerk, you know, says to you, oh, wow, I dreamed about your husband last night, and they're thinking how weird.
Mhm.
And you look great. Well, this is for you.
Wow.
I knew the grocery clerk, you know, has no grief around them really, you know,
Wow.
so they can get through. And eventually, you know, as it dissipates a little bit and as they get better at it,
Wow.
you'll get the messages. But I always want people to know that because they're always so hurt about, well, why is he talking
Why have
to
I never
you
dreamed
and
about
not
my
for
mom?
me? Yeah.
Wow,
and
I've
not to
always
me.
wondered about that.
Yeah, it's just very dense. It's like a dense envelope around you, or like a heavy blanket around you. And there's nothing you can do about this.
Just write it out. Just
You have to, yeah. And know that the messages are coming through. Watch for little signs as, you know, things misplaced, you know, or, you know, they'll screw with you too.
Barbara, it's unbelievable that this hour's already passed.
Oh my God.
I just love visiting with you. It's just always so cool to catch up
It
with
is.
you.
I love having these conversations.
Yeah, they're so great.
Thanks so much for having me on your show again. I really
Yes.
appreciate it.
Guys, you have been watching the Weekend Boost. Again, if you know someone who wants to tell a story, I'd love to hear from you. Reach out to me at info@paullane.net. I would be glad to feature your friend, your family member, your author friend, leader. If you know anybody who just wants to come on the show and tell their story, I'm here. But you've been watching the Weekend Boost. My guest, Barb Crowley, is not only a friend of ours, but a guest that I just love having. And, you know, thank you so much for being here with us
Thanks
today.
for having me on, Paul. I really appreciate it.
Guys, you've been watching the Weekend Boost on the stream on Melody Drive, KUHS Denver, and we will see you in 2 weeks. Thank you for joining us.
Bye-bye.